Hello, good evening. Welcome. My name is Kwabena. Welcome. I want to share with you today an African journey of infatuations, self-discovery, and living on purpose. An African journey of infatuations, self-discovery, and living on purpose. All humans yearn to live on purpose. Every human being, whether he's an African, he's an Asian, he's a Caucasian, whether it's, wherever they come from, male, female, we want some sense of meaning to living. But I think that if you're an African, you have two forms of discoveries that you have to do. One is the personal one, at your personal level. You have to find yourself, your purpose, your passion, your reason for living. Why is it that you were made to live here? And then the other thing is that you have to also find your purpose as an African. I say that because there are a lot of questions that the Africans deal with that maybe as a race we deal with constantly, that maybe the other people may not have to deal with, maybe. And so it's a journey. It's a journey of a lot of infatuations, a lot of myths and assumptions. And then you come to where you have to self-discover yourself, and then you self-discover the African. And then you start to live on purpose. It's a journey. Not many people find it genuinely. Not many people are honest enough to find it. Not many people are fortunate enough to even see the difference. Okay, so a lot of our people live in infatuation. A typical example is, it's myself. When I was growing up, the kind of environment that I grew up in, the kind of stories that I grew up in, like any other African young man or young woman or a child, you would hear a lot of stories about how fantastic and how developed the rest of the world is, and it's a perpetual, perpetual quest for a very young person, very young guy, maybe child, an infant, an African, living in any form of a village, to be asked that, what do you want to do? And you hear of, I want to travel to America, I want to travel to all these areas. It's an infatuation. I want to become all the professions that they tell us. If you're growing up, you will not have, at least based on what I heard and what I saw around, you will not much will be put in you to be so much proud to be from here and to want to solve the issues of your continent. It's an infatuation. So we grew up as Africans with a lot of myth, a lot of lies about the world and about ourselves and about the achievements of others and about our own achievement. A lot of people will go through life 80 years, 90 years and never deal with these infatuations. They will never deal with this self-discovery. And until you have crossed those lines, you will never be able to live on purpose as an African. You'll get a job, you get a profession, but you will live a hang life, a life that is not realistic to the environment, to the country that you come from, to the struggles of your people. you will come up with all kind of assumptions and all kind of realistic suggestions why we are where we are, because you were not able to deal with the infatuations. And if you don't go through the infatuations, you will not be able to deal with the self-discovery. And if you don't go through the self-discovery, purpose will elude you. So the infatuations are the things that they tell us about every country of the world that you see Africans go there. You go to China, for instance. When you get to the airport, look at the way they handle the Africans. Go to America, same. Go to Asia, go to Australia, same. Go to England, same. If you look like me, no matter your achievement, no matter your so-called education that you have, so long as you have this kind of pigment, history has made it a bit tough for us to be readily looked at as a people of value and of substance. Go to Dubai. If they have Western passport, they pay them differently. If they come from Africa, they're treated differently. Look at the boys who play football in all these countries. Some of them are super skilled, but they pay them differently because of the pigment of their color, because of history. A lot of our people will live in a lie. I say that it's not realistic because they once a while you have just one person out of a million trying to live the so-called standards. So the infatuations are rare. They don't have to create hatred in you, but if you refuse to say that they are not rare, at least the letter that I know means that you have not gone through the stages yourself, and you have not gone through the self-discovery, and you will not be of that much value to us as a people, as Africans. And so, wherever you are born in this world, whatever continent that you are born on, if you're born on this continent and you look like me, the challenges that you have are different from the challenges of other people. You carry Ghanaian passport. There are so many countries that you have to get visa. You have to go and pay a lot of thousands, a lot of hundreds of dollars, and they refuse a lot of the people. Now, who set these laws and who fights them? It's all over. If they're in England and they want to go to America, they just carry the passport and go. If you're there and you have a Ghanaian passport, you have to go and queue. Who set these barricades? Who set these barriers for our people? Who said them? So the fact that you were born here, there are physical challenges that you deal with all your life. And so when I was growing up, we heard a lot of stories. My uncles, fathers, mothers' side, some of them were living outside the country, and whenever they came, we looked to them, the stories that they told us about the countries that they live. They look fantastic. They look, like heaven. And it was a desire of almost all of us to one day go to some of these countries. It was an infatuation. We got to secondary school. We saw people who had been into some of these countries. We saw people whose parents were there. And we saw them as people who were fortunate, who were prosperous, who were lucky. It is an infatuation. It is an infatuation. Now, they clad our process of self-discovery. We link these things to level of prosperity, sometimes even level of intelligence. A lot of our sayings, we hear them, and so there is a lot of infatuation with us, and a lot of those never lifted us as a people, never lifted our prestige, never lifted our intelligence, never lifted our fortunes. But if you ever brought other group of people who look differently from us, they would want to put the fortunes on them than on us. The stories that we heard growing up. Others came to conquer us. Others came to slave us. Others came to enslave us. Others came to colonize us. and they created a lot of self-doubt in us. And so we have produced a continent of people who love everybody but ourselves. It's unfortunate. We have produced a lot of people who want to go everywhere to work, bad for the development of our country, bad for the development of our continent. It is an infatuation. You can academically fight it, deny it, come out with all kind of data, but not much has changed since I was a child in terms of the infatuation. But if you are fortunate and you are curious, you may find out that it's just a myth. There may be physical disadvantages, there may be physical barriers, there may be a lot of things that is set for us as a people and for us as a continent. But at least if you have proper understanding of the situation, you'll be able to have your peace and contribute your part to going through these processes of infatuation, of self-discovery, and living on purpose as an African. These infatuations are, the infatuations with, let me tell you something about the infatuations. The infatuations, a lot of our people have these infatuations of when I go to school, I'll become successful. When I get a lot of those degrees, and the kind of heart that we have for these universities around the world that we call Ivy League universities. If you go to Harvard and I went to Kwabena and Marie University, automatically they give you the job. Whether you can do the job, you can do the job, nobody cares. It's an infatuation. It's an infatuation. If you have somebody coming to look for work at any of our banks and they work with Citibank somewhere, or these banks, HMB, HSBC or something, those kind of banks. And I also went with Achumaman Rural Bank, and we came to look for him. We came for an interview. They look at my CV, they look at the other guy's CV, you know it and I know it. It's an infatuation. It will not even be the responsibility. It will not even be the productivity. It will just be the fact that the guy who's doing the interview has been conditioned to raise the other people so much high. When we were in school, we wanted to travel. We wanted to see. We did swap. We did all kind of programs to just go and see. What amazes me is that we didn't want to go to Togo or Burkina Faso or Kenya or Uganda or South Africa or somewhere. We wanted to go to America, Canada, England. And if you went and you came, sometimes even in the university, when you were going to apply for the visa, they will still want you to bring all kind of documents because they think that when you go, you will not come back. It's an infatuation. It's a condition. It's part of the process to prevent you from self-discovery. So people who they call it opportunity. Whenever I hear somebody say that when you live in these countries, you have an opportunity, I'm like, wow, is that true? There is another infatuation as to, getting a job and living like you're successful without sense of purpose, but just salary that you receive at the end of the month. It's an infatuation. It's an infatuation. If you get on the plane, let's say you go to anywhere and you're coming, and the plane is coming from some of these Asian, you see the number of Chinese that are coming to Africa, the number of Indians that are coming here. What is it that they see here that most of our people or many of our people don't see? If you travel, if you're on a plane and you're going to say China, you look, a lot of the people who are going to trade, most of them are market women with basic education. Hardly do you find a lot of these guys we have sent to school going there to trade. So The capacity to build companies like ShopRite, Melcom, all those kind of companies will still lag. Because the market woman who are in the number, they are there a lot. They are the ones who are going almost all the time. The ones who can read, who can write, who we send to school, very much comfortable jobs and what they call middle class. It has an infatuation. It is an infatuation. If you don't go through that, you'll never discover yourself. And if you don't discover yourself, you can never live on a big level. Not with your thought, not with your heart, and obviously not with your achievement. It's an infatuation. When you discover your identity, because there are two discoveries. The one at the personal level, you have to discover yourself as a person, as what you stand for, what you believe that you were made to do, the things that you are passionate about, what is your gift, what is your aspiration. Do you want to be a prominent person in politics, in academia, in business, in creativity, in science, whatever that you think you can do with your life? You have to identify yourself first. But the other thing is that you also have to identify yourself as an African. So there have been a lot of lies that have been pushed on the Africans. And that has prevented, or those have prevented a lot of Africans from self-discovery. So they build up a lot of argument to put themselves down. The misinformation is coming from sometimes the culture, the education, the media, and sometimes it will overwhelm you if you don't overcome the infatuations and the lies. You come with all intelligent discussions on why we are where we are. Because the challenges are real. I heard the other time that the American embassy is threatening us that they will stop our people from traveling because the minister didn't allow some people to be deported here. But what do we lose? If they bring them home, what do we lose? The other time I went to buy something and we were discussing something with a lady who was selling. And she said that, but if they bring them here, what are they coming to do? Here is very difficult. Some people even call here Ojakrum. Those who live outside the country, they call here Ojakrum. How can you call your own country Ojakrum? Because it's infatuation. You grew up with it. I grew up with it. Every one of us grew up with it. You grew up hearing an uncle saying that, I will take you to America. So it was a blessing. We go to church. People hold passports. They pray for us that we'll get visa to travel to England. And it's a blessing, it's a miracle of God for us to live. Go to America on a visitor's visa. Go to struggle all your life. It is an infatuation. It is an infatuation. And it is indeed an error. And it's a pain. A lot of our people are locked in that kind of infatuation. They will never get to self-discovery. And they will never get to live on purpose. Some people even send their children to secondary school to go to America to school. Wow. Why do you need that kind of education? Africa is where the future is. Especially if you are an African. And yet you go to give them American education to come into this continent. To solve what? Why do you think our leaders find it difficult to find our problems, the solutions to our problems? Because the majority of them never schooled here. So they bring motivation, but there's no strategy. They bring ideas and axioms, but there's no physical, practical approach to solving problems. It's an infatuation. How can you leave your child who is just about 15 years, 12 years to go to America to go and live alone, to go to school because you want to give them better education? What do you call better education? It's an infatuation. And the world has been classified that way. It's been broken down like that. And the least of all people is the dark-skinned African. If they're African American and they're even dark-skinned, at least they respect them. Those of us who are from here, we are the least respected. It's not a blame, just a realistic observation. And I don't care what the other people think. And I don't even beg for somebody to respect me. I just have to understand how they think of me. Then I can know their choices and their decisions. So when they are talking, I can separate the truth from the lies. But if you live in infatuation, you say that, me, I don't see all those things. It's not true. They just happened about 1,000 years ago and nobody really does that. Yes, it's true. So when you go to the parliament, why don't you see a lot of Africans there? Why don't you see Africans as presidents in most of these countries? When you look at the world's list of billionaires, why don't you see your people there? A lot of them have lived there for 30 years, 40 years. Why? Is it because they are just not right in thinking? Or is it because that they are lazy? Or maybe they have wrong thought or the wrong way of thinking? It's realistic. But I think that it's an infatuation that we grew up with. Just as I grew up with an uncle who was giving me a promise that I will come and take you to America. And it was a goal. We'll take you to Germany, go for Germany. That is what we grew up with. They should have put in us that what you see in this village, what you see in this town, we are sending you to school. And when you come back, you are better informed, better equipped to create solutions and solve problems in this community. That is why we are sending you to school. We are not sending you to school to become a doctor, and when you finish, you go and become a nurse in another man's land because you look dark and you're from Ghana, or you're from Nigeria, or you're from South Africa, or you're from Kenya. It's an infatuation. They're putting us. So we struggle with it. We struggle with it. The facts are there. It's difficult there, but we cannot reconcile it. If you're able to cross the infatuation, you will get to the self-discovery. And if you get to the self-discovery and you're able to know that a lot of it are not realistic, and that if I finish school here and I live here, and you finish school and you travel, after 20 years, the success that I enjoy or the success that you enjoy will have very much little to do with the fact that you traveled and I live here. Every one of it will be the fact that we had a purpose, we had a plan, we had a strategy, we had a desire to become successful. It will never be because that, okay, let's say we all finish school here, we all finish maybe university or something, and I stay here for the next 20 years, you stay there for 20 years or 30 years, I stay there. After 30 years, if you come to meet, your success and my success will have very little to do with if you live in England and I live in Ghana. If I live here and I have a better plan, I'll achieve. If you live there and you have a better plan, maybe you will achieve. But the hindrances are many when you start here. The hindrances may not be many because you go there, they give you a credit card, you buy a car, you get a mortgage. So you think that you're successful. You look like successful. You look like a well-dressed cemetery until we start to dig beneath it. You look dressed, you look packaged, but there's no substance in it. So the beginning here may be difficult. And that's why you need self-discovery. You need right thinking. You need separation of thoughts for you to choose to say that I want to live here, live my life. I want to be relevant, because life is more than just making decisions on food, making decisions on water, making decisions on just buying a house or living in a house. Life is more than that. Life is more than just getting employment and getting married. Life is more than that. Life is about self-discovery. Life is about achievement, creativity, ethics, living on purpose, living in synchronization with your inner being. Life, great achievers, they didn't live to buy a house. They didn't live to get a job. They didn't live to marry. They live for a purpose, for destiny. How many people remember Mandela, for instance, just because he came to live, to buy a house and get a job, or as a lawyer? Remember him because he lived for higher purpose. He lived for the dignity of his people. He played a role. If he had not been there, maybe his people would still be under apartheid. That's the essence of living. Higher purpose. But when you're full of the infatuation, you only live for food, for comfort, for satisfaction, self-satisfaction, for a house, for a car, for your children's school fees. So that when you are here, you were here, you were living in Ghana. Now you travel, you are coming back, you're afraid that armed robbers will attack you. So how about the 30 million of us who live here? Some of them came to visit us, and they will not even drink water that we drink, because they told them that here the water is not good. It's an infatuation. It's an infatuation. It's an infatuation. And a lot of us grew up with that. Our leaders should not live to impress the people. You don't live. Our leaders should live and make decisions. That's where the problem is. Our leaders should live and make decisions that whatever decisions that we are making is for the better standard living of our people, not for us. One of the infatuations is that when one of you becomes a political leader or leader somewhere, he wants everybody to look up to them as successful, instead of him looking to say that I became here, or I came to this position so that I can make decisions to make the living standards of my people right. It's an infatuation. It's an infatuation. That's why every one of them is yearning to get into those kind of positions, so that everybody will look up to him as successful. But it will take us to solve it, and it will take those who have discovered themselves to go through the processes, the pains, to live on purpose. Because the purpose is linked to the continent that you are born, to the country that you are born, to the village that you are born. It's not by chance that you were born where you were born, you schooled where you schooled, you were born in the country that you were born in. It's not by chance. You cannot leave the continent, you cannot leave the country to continue to suffer because of your self-security and your own joy and happiness. People went through a lot to even fight for our independence. They went into the problems because they had different thinking. They had discovered themselves. They knew that they live for purpose. They live for sense of dignity. When you produce a mass of people who are in infatuation, they live for self-satisfaction. They live selfish lives. So they run away from the problems. If you so believe that Africa is in trouble, if you so believe that Africa has a lot of challenges, who do you think that should solve them? You run out of it and go somewhere and you complain. They should solve this. They should solve that. They should solve the flood. They should do this. Who? Who are they? Are you not part of us? Are you not one of us? Were you not born here? Don't you have your family here? Don't run away. If you live for sense of purpose, you fight for the dignity of your people. You will not live in that infatuation. Because those who live in infatuation, they live for security. They live to marry, raise their children, get their job, and that's it. They never risk for the advantage of the masses. They never risk for the advantage of the next generation. If you live in the infatuation, you will never accomplish. Your self-confidence will never be intact. You never live out of your uniqueness because you're clouded. You live a myth. You live a myth. So my name is Kwabena, talking about an African journey of of infatuation, of self-discovery, and living on purpose. An African journey. All of us, those of us who were born here, we have gone through that. We have gone through a lot of infatuations, a lot of myth, a lot of errors, a lot of things that they told us which were not true. And then we started to discover ourselves. If you are fortunate, because I know that most people would never live beyond infatuation. That's what they live only for themselves. That's what they only live to get a job, to buy a car, to buy a house, and never care about the other person. A lot of people live in infatuation. They never risk their so-called reputation. Never. They never want to be controversial for the freedom of his people. Never. They will never risk their lives. They will never stand to argue if it has to benefit other people. They live in infatuation. Infatuation can also be when you live in dishonesty. You work for the government, or you do your business, and you don't care whether you screw the whole country to get profit or not. Don't care. You live in infatuation. You're part of the reason why they don't respect us everywhere in the world. They don't. And that's true. The whole world, through their media and history, have been conditioned to see Africans as still less of a humankind, as just a factory feed, as just a consumer market for inferior goods. See Africans as just for entertainment and sports. You work with the government, you only think of yourself. You bought that lie. That's why you never get to that stage of self-discovery. And the peace of life, the fulfillment of life, is not in the infatuation level. No. It's never. And the peace and the fulfillment of life, sense of purpose, sense of mission, sense of accomplishment, significance, they never in the infatuation stage. And you can never fill that hole with materials, material possession, or even in a position in a country. No. Until you have done, or you have gone through the self-discovery stage, where you start, because when you have discovered yourself, the pain, the cries, the problems in your environment get your attention. You start to live beyond your interests. You start to live beyond what will benefit you alone. You start to think of what will benefit your country, what will benefit your people. You start to live for purpose. Live beyond that which must only serve your interests. So you have a business and all your decisions are only for your interests. It doesn't matter. If they have to change every figure for you to get all the money and nobody gets anything, you don't have any problem with it. It's because you have no sense of purpose. You don't live at that level of competence. You don't live at that level of inner potential, of creativity. You don't live like that because you didn't go through self-discovery. You still lock up at the infatuation level. You're in love with yourself. So somebody brings CV to your business place. There's an opening. You hide it and bring your cousin because you bought a lie. You bought a lie. And so, all of us, if you're born here, it's a cycle. You go through it. You go through a lot of infatuations. Infatuations with job, infatuations with living abroad, infatuations with degree, infatuations even sometimes with religion. With religion. With religion. And so when you see somebody who look like having all those things that they told you to have to represent the fact that you're successful, you become mesmerized. You become beaten down because the person looks like everything. So you meet somebody who tells you that I went to this school in this country and is so much in love with that country. You can meet some young men, They have never gone anywhere. When you go to their room, everything there is from that country. And they tell you that I once met a young man who was very tall. He was telling me that if I get to America, I will play basketball. I told him, young man, go and get some books, read, school yourself. Get something to do with your life while you're here. Don't live your life waiting to go somewhere. Thinking that when you get there, because you live in infatuation, you live in a mirage. It's a mirage. You'll never get it. Because for him, anybody that he saw who was tall was throwing basketball. And when they get to America, it means that he'll be successful. You can't blame him. Because that's the story that his uncle told him. That's the story that his mother told him. That's the story that everybody told him. That, hey, listen, why are you wasting your time here? When you get to this country, they will pay you millions. So, it's a lie. There are a lot of those people there, very tall, who sleep on the street. And somebody should tell that young man that you better take charge of your life while you're here. People have put their lives on hold for years, waiting for visa. Spend millions. People sold their houses. People have sold their houses just to go and live in another country. And when they get there, they become disappointed. Because it's an infatuation. You can be successful everywhere you are if you deal with infatuation. When you are clear, when you are in self-discovery, you don't mind paying whatever price that you have to pay to live life of purpose. Because you have discovered yourself. You know what you have. You know what you can endure. You can see clearly. When you live in a lie, you never are prepared. You're never prepared to deal with the difficulties that come in trying to live a life of achievement. Because you think that it is difficult because it's here. You know, it's tough. You know, doing business in Ghana is very tough. Becoming a teacher in Ghana is very tough. Becoming a policeman in Ghana is very tough. They don't pay you well. In somewhere, you know, they pay them £1,000 a week, you know? You sure? So how many of them are billionaires? It's an infatuation. It is a lie. They pay them £1,000. But do you know how much they pay for rent? Do you know what they do to get £1,000? It's an error. They told us, and you see that on TV. They told you even in the course that you're reading, you know, you're doing business, they give you all these kind of examples. But they don't give you the other side. So you live in a lie. You live that, if I get there, you know, I will live a successful life. And you get there and you have lived there for 5 years. Still don't know what you're doing. Because you bought a lie. And that lie was sold to all of us. It's an infatuation. Infatuation with living abroad, infatuation with going to school abroad, infatuation with getting anything that looks like those people who came to colonize us. It's an infatuation. You know, so when you go to church, they're praying. Sha, 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 sha. God will take you to America. Amen. We think that's a way to overcome poverty. It's never a strategy to overcome poverty. Never. The strategy to overcome poverty is a clarity of thought, self-discovery, getting serious whatever that you're doing, whatever that they commit to you to do, paying attention, being present, becoming a person who works hard, becoming credible, planning your life, organizing your life. That's how you overcome poverty, at least at your level. But, you know, when you are in that infatuation, you put your life on hold. Because you think that when your uncle comes and he takes you, you work 2 days, you will get $1,000. People have been there for 30 years. They can't even buy a ticket to come home. It's an infatuation. It's a lie. Even those who have been able to build a house here, they will never live in it. It is a lie. It is a lie. But you can only overcome that when you have gone through self-discovery. I remember I had a chance to be listening to one of the greatest, teachers of our time, and he was dealing with some of these subjects. And when I listened to him over 6 months, I became so much confident, so much clear, that if I live in my country, I'll be more successful, and that I was ready to play my part, just because of that information that the man gave. And he broke a lot of things in history, in the structures, and what it takes to live there, the things that you're going to fight. If you live here, what you have to do. It was just clear, out of good information that I had from that man teaching. So a lot of the infatuation is because people are processing wrong data, wrong information, which have not been tested, proven. It's just a lie that they told us when you're growing up, and nobody's challenging it. And people will say that, no, it's not like that, it's not like that, it's like that. If you want to live a life, a successful life, it has nothing to do with moving anywhere. It has everything to do with you being clear with yourself. This is what I want to do, and it will take this amount of work to get over. That's how you live a successful life. That's why you live on purpose. And living on purpose goes beyond just living to buy food, pay children's school fees, to marry, to buy a house. Those are just trivial things. Sometimes even things that are not human beings live for that. The chimpanzee can go for food for the sun. They build something to live in. They marry, at least they have a woman, and they give birth. So that is not achievement. The separation, if it comes to humans, is for you to live for purpose. And living for purpose goes beyond living for yourself. It's more to do with living to solve critical situations, critical problems in your community, with the expertise that you have, with the training that you have. So if I'm a teacher, I don't necessarily just have to teach because they pay me well. I also teach because there is that need for me to impart knowledge to people. So I do that with sense of purpose. But if I'm in the infatuation stage, I only teach because I want salary. And I'm always on strike because I need better salary. And I think that somebody else will pay me enough not to want more. That's that infatuation. Nobody can pay you salary that you will be rich. Forget. You can only get beyond the need level when you start to organize your finances well. And that goes beyond just any level of salary. It's more of the knowledge that you have with the money that comes to you. But if I've gone through the infatuation stage, I will teach out of self-discovery that whatever that I'm doing with these children, it will become something significant in the future. That out of these children, somebody else will come up to build our continent, to build our country, to build our hometown. So that is the sense of purpose that I do. So if I'm a nurse, I go to work not only for the salary, but work as a part of contribution in building my country. That way, you will not just pack your things and go to Libya because they say that they need nurses there, and go and endure a lot of pain, a lot of challenges, a lot of disrespectfulness, and inhumane way of treating people. And it's always, when you hear anything that they call racism, it's just against the Africans. When you hear any way that they are treating people badly, look at the color, it's the Africans. Everywhere you go, if you see people and how they are treated badly, they look like me. And for me, the Africans are still living in that infatuation. The world is not gone through that stage where they are going to accept a lot of the Africans as equal human beings like that. They are not fighting for, they are not fighting for that. We have to build our continent. Then maybe the world will start to see us as a responsible people. Maybe. We don't know. But there is infatuation. There is self-discovery. And there is a life of purpose. A lot of people, I dare say, maybe 90% of the world's population, especially the Africans, live in the infatuation. They never go through self-discovery. They never discover their potential. They never discover their uniqueness. They never discover their talent, whatever they have to do, and they never live the sense of purpose. They never. Because a lot of lies were told us. We were told that when we travel, we get rich. That's a lie. They told us that when we go to school and we get a lot of certificates, we will be rich. That was a lie. told us that if you become a minister of state, you will get money. If you don't steal, you can never get money by becoming a minister of state. That's a lie. You know. So it's a lot of lies that they have told us. So they are waiting for miracle to get a visa. That's another lie. If anybody has to pray for you to get a visa to travel outside your country, that person is telling you that he doesn't even believe in that God that he says. Doesn't. So it's an infatuation. And so long as you live in that infatuation, no matter your level of education, no matter your profession, male or female, you'll never live a fulfilled life. You'll never discover yourself. And you meet those who have not discovered themselves, you will know. They're never proud to be one of us. They are always talking about our problems, our challenges. And they are the ones talking about somebody else should be the one solving them all the time. They will tell us about all the sources of our problem as a people because they have not discovered themselves. The moment you discover yourself, you will know the part that you have to play. Not just to complain about the problems. And the moment you discover yourself, you find your purpose. You know what is required of you and what you can do to play a part. So never wait. Put your life on hold to get those things. Wherever you are, you can make a contribution to the building of a continent, to the building of a country. If you can only live beyond the infatuation. Don't walk out of the problems. Don't walk on Africa. Don't walk off thinking that once you are out of here, all your problems are over. That's a lie. The best of life is live with sense of purpose. If there is any place that they need people who are confident, who are achieving oriented, who are creative, who are ethical to solve problems, it's nowhere than our continent. But it can only be done by people who have gone through self-discovery. Not those who are infatuated with just themselves and their food and their house and their cars and their career. They live for themselves. They are still in the infatuation. Those are not the ones that we are looking for to build a continent, to build our country. We are looking for those who have gone through self-discovery. They know what they can offer and they know that they live for sense of purpose. They live for sense of purpose. So thank you very much for watching. Thank you for watching. So an African journey of infatuations, self-discovery, and living on purpose. And we went through that. I went through that. I was born in a place where traveling, going to school, looking for a job is the norm, you know. So we had to overcome that kind of programming and get into a place where we discovered ourselves. What was our uniqueness? Is there anything wrong with the African? I found out there was nothing wrong with the African, you know. If there was anything wrong, it's how he's been programmed. And the moment he gets different kind of information, he can reprogram and live his life. And he doesn't have to move anywhere to become successful. He can live with his talent and with the right information. And he can live making life better for others than only for himself. That's where the sense of fulfillment is, when you live for others, not yourself. If you live only for yourself, you live a small life. You live a pain life. You live a little life. You live for the betterment of your country. You live a fulfilled life. So thank you very much for watching. Thank you.